Welcome to the 313 Men, Money, and Marriage podcast, the podcast where facts, logic, and reasoning are at the forefront of every conversation. I'm your host, Andrew Johnson, and in today's episode, we are going to be talking about lifestyle creep, the ego tax. I do have two guests on the show, but before we get to that, I'm just going to read a few of the definitions here, what we're going to be talking about pertaining to lifestyle creep. Definition of lifestyle creep is very straightforward. It's just simply the gradual increase in your spending as your income rises. Yesterday's luxuries become today's necessities. The ego tax is just a premium you pay to impress people you probably don't even like. The cost of maintaining your image. The newest iPhone is an example, or a luxury SUV. So those are two definitions. One of the first questions you might want to ask yourself is, why do we do this? Why do we engage in this type of behavior? Well, human beings are just basically wired to return to a baseline level of happiness. An example would be the new car smell. It'll last for a few weeks. You'll get that dopamine rush, makes you feel good. But then after the smell wears away, it just turns into an ordinary car. There's other things such as social signaling. We use purchases to signal our value to the tribe. And that basically means we basically want to show our circle of friends or people who are in our circle that we're making it, or we've made it per se. So those are the reasons why, some of the lifestyle creep, but we're going to be asking a bunch of questions on this particular topic. And I'm going to introduce my guests here who have been on before. First up is Greg. Greg has been a regular on the show. You know him. He hosts the podcast, Greg's Take. Give it up for Mr. Greg. Greg Whitaker, how you doing, sir?
Great. Glad to be here.
Great. And the other guest, he came on the last time, and he was on the episode with Greg, is Mr. Desmond Douglas. He is a financial advisor of Douglas Asset Development. Desmond, how are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. Good to see you again, Greg.
You too.
There you go. All right. This is the second time y'all worked together, and these episodes do really well. The last one we did extremely well numbers wise. So hopefully we'll have the same magic with this particular topic, and we'll go from there. I do want to ask some questions. As you know, there's quite a few things I want to ask, but the first question I want to ask is, and this is going to be to you, Des. How do you distinguish, between a genuine improvement in quality of life versus that quote unquote lifestyle creep? How do you do that?
Sure. So I would say that's a good question. So I've never heard that term, by the way, lifestyle creep, but it makes sense.
Yeah, lifestyle creep. Yeah. It's like you make a little bit more, so you got to buy a little bit more to.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, something, I say the difference is something that's going to create lasting value versus that temporary excitement, I think that it's safe to say, when we work hard, that we should enjoy it to a certain extent, right? We don't want to necessarily deprive ourselves if it's unnecessary, because there are people on that side of the spectrum that I've encountered. But there is a balance. And a lot of times when we start to get higher income, then it's only right. We want to, we get used to it, human nature, right? And so it's the same thing with the inheritance and the lotto story. And maybe I'm jumping too far ahead, but once you get started and you like it, and you continue, and that's the problem. If that will become a problem if you're not the type to look at your finances. So one of the first things I talk to clients about is budgets. And so you should be able to see how the money comes in and where it goes. It starts from just that simple planning. Husband and wife sitting down at the kitchen table. All right, this is what we have coming in. How much is going out? Then you can make those decisions to say, well, hey, let's allocate X amount of dollars towards our short-term bucket, our, medium, and then a longer term, bucket for retirement. And so that helps. But the lifestyle creep, I think, is natural to some extent. but it does require those with discipline. Otherwise, it's very easy to get taken away. Sorry, I probably went too long on
No,
that
that's
explanation.
fine. That's fine. But
That's
it
usually
does,
me doing that.
yeah, it does get to the point where it does make some sense when you say it that way, because it is such a subtle. Sometimes it's very subtle, and
Yeah, but
we
quality of
like
life too, right? If you were just eating
yes,
spaghetti for the every day because that's what the budget allowed, you don't want to not eat nice, eat some fish and some and vegetables and spend a little more for the groceries for that's bettering your life
sure,
versus that I would say that is a necessity. Health is wealth. You
yes,
know,
yes,
that doesn't mean DoorDash every other day. I mean, go to the grocery store, but you shouldn't have to settle for for less. You work, you should enjoy it, but it needs to be established ahead of time. Otherwise, those who fail to plan to fail in
right.
some regard.
You need a balance, basically. Greg,
Yeah.
let me ask you this one here. Once you become accustomed to a certain, certain luxuries, why is it so difficult to kind of downshift? If you say bought a newer vehicle or purchased something that brought you some level of pleasure, you know why is it so difficult to maybe the next purchase, whether it's a big ticket item or not, so hard to like kind of go back down a little bit if you had to?
Two things, and this is just human nature. Most people don't understand the difference between standard of living and quality of life. Here in America, we're very blessed to have, compared generally to a lot of parts of the world, not all, to have a fairly high standard of living. And that means the above and beyond, in my opinion. The quality of life is the base level. Am I relatively healthy? Am I living not in fear to walk outside of my front door, and that type of thing? So getting those mixed up, it's easy to do. It really is. And to your other question, why is it so hard to revert back once we start kind of sweetening the pot? I think it's simple human behavior. I think it's because we can move up. And it can be for a number of different reasons, but I'm going to go baseline on this one. Anytime we add something into our experience, it can be healthy and it can also be unhealthy. So it's both sides of the spectrum. But when it's an unhealthy adding, we're telling the world and ourselves, whether we understand it or the world sees it or not, that we don't quite yet know who we are, and there may be a little bit of emptiness that we're feeling inside. And when you can go to the consumer side of this experience called being a human and fill it with that, whether it's that or chemicals or relationships, you just plug in the thing. It's the thing that we do. We seek pleasure, and it's just the way that we're wired. And the key is, I am thoroughly convinced of this. Motivation means nothing. Discipline is everything.
Yes, and that's a really good point. It's having that ability to kind of pull back when you see something that you want or you like. You don't always have to pull the trigger on it per se. And we
Hmm.
get tempted all the time. So I mean, there's so many ads and advertising, and we might just be walking through the store and see something that's technically out of our price range, but our brain starts working and we start saying, I want some of that myself. I want to get that pizza or item or whatever it is myself. It could
Hmm.
be, it could be nowadays people are getting 100-inch TVs. I mean, it's just not stopped. There's always something new to purchase or buy that we don't need, but it sure would look good if we had it in our home, kind of thing. So, Des, let me ask you this here. When we're talking about the ego tax, I'm just going to go back to the definition again. It's just a premium you pay to impress people you probably don't like, and it's the cost of maintaining your image. So, pertaining to the ego tax, my question is going to be for you. In your view, obviously, I just gave you the definition. How does it manifest? How does it manifest in everyday decisions? So, certain things that we're purchasing, this ego tax that we get caught up in. So maybe I can use an example. You're having a whole bunch of friends over, it's a party or something, you're celebrating something, and you want them to see your home, and you want to have some new stuff up in there so that they can see it and maybe you get some compliments. But how do we how do we manifest that? What's your thought processes on that?
It's the premium that we pay so that we could be seen a certain way.
Yes. Yes.
Well said. Well said.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how does it manifest in our lives? So if we were to say that, how do we sit back and we go, why does it affect our everyday decisions? If like,
I don't think we realize it. I think it's a subconscious thing.
yes,
Certainly. Those who live a disciplined lifestyle, they do that intentionally. Most, if you don't look at it, again, if you don't acknowledge it, how many families truly have a budget and follow it? Or at least a budget's not perfect, but how many couples or households even discuss that? I come across plenty of couples that handle finances separately.
yeah, yeah.
There's a
And,
couple movies that I don't know if you've seen Keeping Up with the Joneses.
oh yeah,
And there's this other one too, the series, your neighbors and friends or something like that. But this is, you know, the definition of kind of what America is built on as far as capitalism and just trying to sell and the billions of dollars that get poured into marketing and then you add social media to the equation and we feel we want to keep up with that. We feel like
sure.
we deserve it.
That's the key phrase that you say. That I deserve is the main thing. Des,
I
I'm gonna ask you a
deserve.
follow up question to this, and I just pertaining to your clients and stuff. How many of your clients, basically, if you were to put a percentage on it, maybe actually come in and have a budget per se, or is it just one maybe in their head, but it's not nothing written down, or what do you think? I mean, because honestly, I don't think most Americans really have a budget. I just think they kind of wing it and they kind of let the chips fall where they may. But with investing classes, it might be different. So, what's your thoughts on that?
Man, I would say 25% or less
Wow. So it's
actually
like,
have one,
yeah,
actually
yes,
have a budget. They'll have one when we sit down, but they don't know. And then they guesstimate, oh, yeah, no, my monthly expenses are just 7,000, 8,000 a month. And it's more like 10, 11 because they don't realize. And then the income's 10,
oh
So,
yeah,
right? So, no, most people don't have it. And that's why it's so easy to allow our human nature to take over. And of course, we're inundated with information and again, social media, all the influences, our neighbors, we're definitely impacted by those around us, affected by those around us that we see, oh, my lawn isn't as nice as his lawn, and oh, I need to call these lawn specialists that do. I mean, the simple things. We get carried away with it if we're not grounded, and most people just don't see how the money is coming in and how it's going out. If they saw it, I think a higher percentage of people would be more disciplined in that area.
I absolutely I agree with you. When it's on paper and you can physically see it, to me, it becomes real. It becomes sort of
It's night and
tangible.
day.
So,
It's like,
yes,
oh,
yes, and I think you
I
got to
spend three
have it on
thousand
paper.
on coffee every year, and we
Absolutely.
don't have to get that granular. I mean, but just
But you know
saying,
what though? It's funny you say. It was maybe 2 years ago. Me and one other person who I'm friends with, we were just writing down what our monthly subscription type things are. Not the big stuff,
those, yeah,
just little small, like the smaller things.
they add
And
up.
I was surprised, but mine came to $200.
200,
200. I
yep.
canceled some of that stuff, but at the time,
The walk of shame.
I think I'm down to 150 now. But I
Oh,
did,
you
I
really
did
pushing it,
cancel
ain't
some.
you?
Yeah, well, I mean, look. What I say is this: almost $40 a month is for the podcast type stuff. But then
Yeah,
after
yeah,
that, I mean, but even still,
Yeah,
yep.
you
it
get a
was.
couple
I was
channels, and
surprised that I had that much subscriptions. But it's and that's what I say. When you said the lifestyle creep is sort of subconscious, sometimes I mean, I didn't know that until it actually was written down on paper. And
We're
so, yeah,
seeing all these signals. That's where all the billions of dollars get dumped into marketing. We
yeah,
don't in advertisements. We're not just seeing these things. It's feeding into our subconscious. We see all this stuff all day surrounding us, and somewhere deep inside, we want to feel that. We want to feel appreciated. That we deserve. That it's human nature. So I
yes,
can't knock someone. I felt that way before. You know what I mean? And one thing though I could say is at least I make sure that I pay myself first. Like that just has to be. So even if it's because look, there are doctors that are living
absolutely,
paycheck to paycheck.
yes, and this,
Please pay yourself first, at least.
yes, yes. Actually, we're
Because
gonna
Does
get
this
into
not
happens
show.
that.
on a higher scale.
Yeah,
We didn't even,
yeah,
it's not just the poor person trying to get something that they can't afford. It's also those who have a nice income, very
Oh
high
yeah.
income that are playing the same game, just on a higher
yes,
scale.
yeah. It's
Yep.
more money, exactly. Greg, I'm
Yep.
gonna ask you this really quick. Do you believe that the lifestyle creep that I was referring to earlier is just an inevitable byproduct of success, or is it a choice?
It's a choice. Well, it's been said many times in my lifetime of studying, banking and just basic general things that we're the most advertised to culture on the entire planet. And for one reason, we're a large land mass, obviously, but generally speaking, why does Coca-Cola have to spend billions of dollars every year reminding me of who they are? Because they know that other than love, the only true currency in this world is attention.
Yes,
Everything
Mm.
else is secondary and tertiary.
yes,
Attention. Because you know what happens? I started thinking about a trailer hitch years ago. I was going to get me a little trailer, put a little lawnmower on it, make a little extra money. Greg started looking for trailer hitches. And I was getting frustrated because I couldn't get it to fit the back of my car. So I took it to U-Haul and they installed it. But for a period of time, all I saw was trailer hitches. Everywhere I went, suddenly everyone literally had a trailer hitch.
yes.
So I
And you were
was
like, "How come I don't
lazy.
have one?"
Yeah, I'm like, that guy's, his is hooked up easy. Mine's a pain. I had to order it, send it back. I just gave up and went to U-Haul. That's what they do professionally. There's sometimes when you got to pay somebody to do something right. I couldn't get it to fit. But
Yeah.
all that being said, that's what my wife said. Listen to you. You get all attitudey about this little trailer hitch.
Yeah.
And I've never even used the damn thing. And that was back in like '06, for God's sakes.
Wow. Wow.
I don't know if I answered the question or not. I got a little
No,
silly
but
on you.
I don't know if you did or not, but it was entertaining. It's an entertaining answer. Des, let me ask you this really quick. How much of our spending, when I'm referring to spending, is discretionary? Discretionary spending is actually for our own utility versus the perceived validation of others. How much of it you think? I don't. I'm not going to narrow it down and ask you to give me a percentage, but how much of it do you think is that the actual
It's
our own
probably
utility versus perceived validation of others?
it's probably more validation than we like to admit, for sure.
Yes.
A good portion of discretionary spending is tied to how we think we're being perceived.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
um, so humans are wired for belonging, just like what Greg was saying. And so, I'm doing well. I'll fit in. I've made it. That mentality.
You know, with the group is so funny. People, just through human nature. I remember I was having a conversation with someone on one of the social media platforms, and it was a disagreement. It wasn't really. They got more upset at me than I was upset at them, basically. But I was just pointing out some things that they were saying that was an error, basically. And another person jumped in and said, "Don't worry about what he's saying. He's not one of us." And so I was thinking about it, and it wasn't, and I don't want the audience to think it was a racial thing or anything like that. What they were basically saying is he's not in our group.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter what he's saying
Hmm.
because he's not in the group. And so we are so fascinated with wanting the desire to belong that even when we're in the group, we can be wrong and we can be lied to, but we'll still stay in the group. That's more important than to actually be right and know the truth.
Hmm.
And so that's where I think some of this stuff gets caught up where we do this is because being in the group is a level of safety, it's a level of comfort, even if we're all going in the wrong direction. And so I think that's where some of this stuff kind of comes into play. We want to show the group that, yeah, we do belong here because
Hmm.
I just bought that new iPhone that just came out. let me
There's
go
a
to,
yeah.
it's
There's a psychology of money for sure. I mean, all of these
yes,
behaviors are not uncommon in their definitions for all of them. That's now a new thing, and you know, speaking to psychologists or someone, and I know where this is like maybe way off the topic, but there is a thing, and a lot of how our behaviors come from, obviously maybe upbringing or influence, and definitely by the people again, we're impacted by those our neighbors and those that we see around us. Those shows, those good movies to me personally. I like it, but it was just showing how brands are being used, how products are being marketed and sold to us, and we're feeling this pressure that we don't realize is coming against us, persuading us and trying to convince us to spend. And then we have buyer's remorse almost immediately, but we still go back, that dopamine rush that you were referring to earlier.
yes,
We get
yes.
something from that every time we go to Marshalls or TJ Maxx. It's like, yeah, I left with a bag,
Oh
and
yeah.
people get used to leaving with the bag. They get used to just ordering out a little bit more than they used to, and oh man, this feels comfortable. I work hard, you know what I mean, and so I deserve to have this. And so it's the mentality, it's the mindset. And I don't know if, and then you talk about racking up a whole bunch of debt, right?
Well,
Because
that's the problem.
we didn't even talk about that side, right? Because now you higher income, but more bills. I guess the stakes get higher.
Well, Des, I'm gonna tell you, I know some people, and I always say some
I
people,
know,
but
I know,
I
I
know
know a
quite a
guy.
few. Yeah, I know a guy. Well, anyway,
That,
they
that knows a
racked
guy.
up they racked up so much debt, right? And they do a consolidation to pay like basically one bill, and it just goes to this debt that they ran up. And one example, the person had maybe about $35,000. This is just credit card, all right? Consolidated, and then a couple years later, ran up the old cards again.
Yeah.
So it's like
I
you
say you
could
better cut
never,
them up.
yeah,
Cut them
yeah,
up.
yeah. And the one thing, one technique that some people use now that is becoming a little bit more popular is they're putting the credit cards in like water and turning it into a block of ice.
Yeah, yeah,
So
block
if
of
you
ice.
want to
That's right.
try and use it, you got to break the ice in order to use it, which I think is a
That's
relatively
right.
good idea because then that involves effort, and
Yeah.
so maybe that would persuade you for not wanting to do it.
Hmm.
Let me ask this question to you, Greg. I think you sort of gave a little bit of an example of this. Is just but pertaining to the hidden ego tax, can you share a time when you might have bought something that was driven by social pressure, meaning like society kind of convinced you that you needed it, even though you probably didn't?
The most recent memory of that, I'm sure there's a few more in there somewhere. Back in the old days, there was a platform called Blog Talk Radio. It was basically like a call-in radio station format. It was a blast. And I sort of was in it during the beta testing. It ended up being sold off or whatever. And I saw this microphone that I wanted. And there was a little bit of status there because it was pricey. And it didn't really make a difference because of just the way the internet is connected. Now the technology has gotten much better. This is like
Mm,
08-ish, somewhere in there.
mm, yeah.
I spent $550 on that microphone. And
Mm,
even a professional voice actor out in Hollywood said, I wish I had enough money to spend on that. And I'm thinking, where are you spending your money? But I didn't know anything about him. We were just
yeah.
yucking it up. And but it was German made. It was extremely high quality, and I didn't need it, but it was an above and a beyond, and it was shaped very uniquely. So I was constantly getting comments when people would come in and excuse me, this is a video platform where I was getting the comments because they could see it. But
Okay.
even
Yeah.
without the video, when the Blog Talk Radio didn't have a high quality of audio like this platform does, you couldn't tell the difference between that microphone and one that cost 80. But when I bought it, I knew I don't need this, but I can afford it, and I just wanted to buy it. Now I ended
Yeah.
up selling it back to Guitar Center, and they probably sold it to somebody, but those have really good resale. I didn't get much for it, but you can always resell them if you're a retailer. So
Yeah.
in the end, it really gets down to this. I don't have like retail therapy that I do where I get upset and I go buy something. If I see something like you were saying, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I have a lapel mic now that works very well. And those are hard to come by, good ones. And it's wireless. And the technology just keeps getting better. And the price point is sickeningly affordable. And I went ahead and bought it. It was like $100, but the quality is extremely good for that tech. So did I need it? Hell no. I got probably 10 mics in my mic locker. So I'm going to be peeling them off on Facebook Marketplace at some point. But in the end, I think there comes a time where we look around and we go, it's time to just clean some of this out. Now it can go to the other extreme where we never let go of any of that stuff and we die with it in our house. And then our heirs have to deal with all that. It's in sheds in the backyard. You know, my aunt had to deal with that when my grandma died. Shed this and shed that. And I get it, but it's just part of what we do. Des said it so well. It's part of the human experience. You know, we do some things because we can, but the behavior of needing to fit in, it's raw tribalism. Because if I'm not accepted by my peer group, you know what that means to the extreme? Greg doesn't get to eat. That's what we're talking about at a very basic level here.
Yeah, that's a good point. Des, let me ask you this question. If a couple increases their income significantly, what's the first conversation they should have to prevent this lifestyle creep / ego tax from occurring? What do you think they should say or talk about?
Have a plan. Okay, well, what do we want to do with this? Sure, and that's a great dialogue because maybe there's likely going to be someone that's going to be more conservative to say, "Hey, well, let's save some," or "Hey, let's splurge." You know, it could be anywhere in between, but having a plan, making sure you can separate it in buckets, sure, enjoy. You know, I refer this to like inheritances, for example. There was some article I read, I thought it was interesting, and I've shared it also, as far as what one should do with an inheritance. You know, enjoy 10% of it, you know, and then make plans to save, whether it be for a short-term goal, you know, that midterm bucket, and definitely something towards the nest egg, you know, the retirement, the longer term bucket. So maybe I'm biased, right? Because I deal with this all the time. But ideally, that's where a person would want to be, have a plan for it. Otherwise, bad things happen. And it can happen to
Absolutely.
anyone. It can
Yeah,
happen to
absolutely.
anyone.
Greg, what role does social media play in inflating the ego tax for the modern family? So what role does social media actually play? You know, some people post that they bought a new car, some people post that they bought a new boat, some people post that they went on some vacation in some exotic area. How much of that do you think is inflating that ego tax?
I mean, it can, obviously. My sister and I had this conversation about a week ago. She's been on Facebook for 5 years. And she experimented a little bit with kind of building a channel on, I don't remember which one it was. It had to do with refurbishing furniture and things of that nature. And I've tinkered with YouTube and this and that and a third. And this is the conclusion that we came to. She said to me, she said, Greg, I was just kind of trying to sort of show off my lifestyle a little bit. I had to admit that to myself. And I said, mine is more of, I want to project to people what I believe is my intellectual prowess. At whatever level is irrelevant. It doesn't really matter. We're not talking IQ. It's just, that old behavior inside of me. And it's an acceptance behavior. If people think that I'm smart, then they'll deem me as being worthy of hanging around, being around, and I'll also be useful, right? And we just said, we're not doing YouTube. We're not, and we just quit. And I said, I would rather be a guest on someone's show like I am now than be the host, where every now and then I just pop in, I get to contribute a little bit, and that's it. But to do it day in and day out and day in and day out, I think it can become a hamster wheel, because if you're on a platform and you're monetized, I don't know anyone that's built a YouTube channel with any type of income that's, even if it's $500 a month, you can't stop. Because if you stop the algorithm, it's just an algorithm. You're not in the juice anymore, and you fade. Sounds just like Hollywood, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then when Hollywood stops calling, that's
you're not getting calls anymore, and then you go inside and you go, I'm not worthy anymore. I'm getting old, and you're like 35 or 40, and you're getting plastic surgery and that whole thing, and it's really dangerous. It really is.
Yes.
Attention. You said it earlier. Attention.
All right. This last question I want to ask both of you really quick, and we get both of your opinions on it. Des, if your income was cut by 30%, which luxury item would be the hardest to give up?
That's a real question right there. You have to ask everyone that. That's for sure.
Yes.
Give up first. I would say, and I had to cut by 30%.
Yeah, yeah,
Which
30%.
luxury? I would say probably for most people, it'd be housing or cars or convenience things. Eating out. That's the low hanging fruit. Trimming down the eating out and
Eating out
some of
can
the
be
discretionary
expensive.
Amazon spending.
Yeah.
Uh,
The question is, if you had to, if it was one item, I guess, how could you
oh,
come
one
across
item.
that? Yeah, if because you could do a bunch of small ones that maybe can equal 30%, but if you had to give up something, maybe a favorite, would it, that's a
A
lot of money.
favorite. One thing that'll just knock off 30%, huh? I mean, that was probably, I don't know what kind of big ticket items on a monthly basis,
Well, yeah, well,
but
that
it's
would be the
probably
question,
going to
I
be like
guess. Yeah, that's kind of hard.
the housing,
Or a car
downsize your
of some
house
sort, maybe. Yeah,
or your car,
yeah,
if that's possible, because once you get into these contracts,
yeah.
you
You're
got to
kind of
ride it
stuck once
out.
you got it. Yeah,
Yeah, you
But
yes.
have
wait a
to, you're obligated.
What about alcohol and cigarettes, people?
Well, if you're using that much, you
I'm not
might want to
pointing
go to the
fingers.
doctor.
I'm not
You might
pointing
want to go to the
fingers.
Yeah,
doctor
yeah,
if you're
yeah.
using that much.
If I had a nickel for every beer I drank in my life, people, oh my God, I'd be swimming in $100 bills. Swimming in $100 bills.
Yep.
All right,
Yep.
Greg, what
Yeah.
about you? What would be that 30% luxury item that would be the hardest for you to give up? That 30% of your income decreased.
It would probably be, Des kind of mentioned it, sort of that discretionary spending on where, I can get it online. I don't have to have it the next day. It's usually something to do with tech. Maybe there's a little piece of tech, $100 or less, that's kind of cool. It's different. It has the technology improved a little, and it's not needed. My wife and I were having this conversation the last grocery trip. I said, we're preparing for high food prices, right? I'm like, okay, let's practice early before the wave hits. What could we give up on the next grocery trip that would be easy? Peanuts, salted
Hmm.
peanuts. Okay. The one that's going to be tough is going to be chocolate. We buy cookies and we like chocolate. And then this is just an example. I'm not pointing fingers. My wife smokes cigarettes. They're $160 a carton.
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
wow.
That's
She goes
crazy.
I enable this behavior, gentlemen. We go every week and a half and we go to the drive-through. You don't even have to get out of your car to buy tobacco anymore. And she
Wow.
knows they're expensive, but I don't fuss at her because she watched me blow untold amounts of money on alcohol back in the old days. So
Uh,
it is what it is. But yeah, it would be a little bit of some of the food stuff. And
mhm.
I think honestly, you walk into the grocery store, think about it. Take out all the junk food, take out all the sugary drinks, you could take out 85% of everything in the grocery store and it would be an adjustment. But you know what? We'd be back to where we were. I don't know, maybe in the 30s, the 40s. We wouldn't
Yeah.
die, but it would be an
Yeah.
adjustment because damn it, I work hard and I deserve it. Well, you
Cook
know
Yeah.
those
what?
meals now, right?
Yeah.
But
You
it's
got to
gonna
start
be
Literally,
cooking.
healthier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
back in
Gotta
the
start
old days,
cooking.
literally, if you didn't stick the seed in the ground and water it and hoe the dirt and harvest it, you didn't deserve it. But we don't have to do that anymore because we have
It's
mechanization and
convenience. It's the
all
convenience
that.
of
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
So I don't know if I
Mhm.
answered the question. I went the round
Yeah,
way,
but
Yeah.
I
roundabout
get
way.
what you're saying.
The-
And
Yeah.
there's ways you have to make some significant cuts, but so it's just hard. If there's one item to give
Yeah, I
up,
would
it's
say
really
just a
hard.
bunch of all the low hanging fruit. There's plenty of things
Yes.
that we're just splurging and frivolously spending. So I would say
Yeah.
that clean that up, tighten that up a little bit, and then we can start going into downsizing on rides or getting in more within your means within the budget,
Sure. Sure.
if possible.
If you
How
can.
about how about if you're a serial hobbyist? My wife accuses me of that, being a serial hobbyist. She's like,
Yes.
"Will you just pick one thing and stick with it?" I'm like, "I like to try different things. It's like
Yeah.
a
Well, that's
buffet.
just your
Hey,
personality.
Costs
yeah.
All
money."
right. Yeah. We are about to wrap up, and I want to say thank you to both my guests, Desmond and Greg. We are going to probably post this episode on YouTube. If you haven't been to the channel before, it's called the Men, Money, and Marriage Hour. You can go there and check out some short clips. There's some shorts, there's some shorter clips, and then there's a few full-length episodes. You can go in there and check that out. Also, if you go to the Instagram page, the 313 Men, Money, Marriage, all one word crammed together, you can go on that page and you can see clips of past episodes and pictures of previous guests. There is a webpage called there's a webpage that the link is always in the show notes. You can click on the link, and you can join the email list, find out what the next episode is going to be about that's coming up, what other podcasts that I might be a guest on as well. And in addition, you can leave a voice recording by clicking on the microphone in the bottom right-hand corner. You can leave a message, and if there's something that you want me to do or have a question about something, and I can respond back to you. So with all of that being said, until we meet again, we are out.